My name is Bradley, B-R-A-D-L-E-Y, Bradley J. Strait, S-T-R-A-I-T. I'm 79, and I'm from Canandaigua, New York. Proud of it.
Yep.
Proud of it.
And like I said, I worked there
Yeah, I know you
for
did.
20 years as a technology education teacher in what they used to call shop,
Yeah.
building all
Yeah.
kinds of things
Yeah.
for the kids
Yeah.
and stuff. And I heard that you're a person of distinction in Canandaigua. How'd that occur?
You got me. No, I have no idea, but they I think there were 5 people in that first class that I can't tell you the year, but it might have been sometime in the middle 90s. I don't remember. But I met the other people there. I don't think I knew any of them beforehand, but one of them, this hands-on tools, or
Industrial arts? Or
no, the company that is called Hands-on Tools. This guy founded that company, and this fellow.
hands-on tools or something?
Yeah, that's right. He founded that company, but he was a pilot off the old Lexington, USS Lexington. If you remember, the Lexington was sunk during the Battle of Coral Sea. This was in it was in May of '42, and he was in the air when the ship went down.
Wow.
So he had quite a time. But anyway, he was one of them, and there were 3 others. I honestly don't remember who they were right now, but that was nice. And Eubing, I think he had a great idea there. I think it's a very nice thing to do. Of course, I obviously would think so, I suppose, but I think they've stopped doing that.
Oh, really?
I think they've abandoned that program. Yeah, I think so. Too bad.
Yeah, I think
Damn shame. Yeah.
people that graduate need some recognition for their efforts, I think.
Well, yeah,
it was nice.
Very heartwarming.
Yes,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
nice. We're here today to ask for your feelings and participation about the Korean War veterans. What do you think of this project? We're going to be interviewing hundreds of Korean War veterans in central New York. What do you think of this project, and what made you interested in participating?
Well, because one of my friends called me and asked me if I would talk to Mr.
Dr. Hahn?
Alan Mazer. Have you met
know him,
Mazer? Anyway, Mazer and I used to teach together in a course in the liberal arts college, which was kind of enjoyable to do. Alan Mazer is a very good teacher, and I really enjoyed listening to his lectures. But he called me and asked me if I would participate in this, and I said, I guess so. I don't know, But he was asking me some things that were dear to my heart about why I joined, or why I enlisted, and what some of the motivations were, and what was the mindset of people, and that's kind of interesting stuff for me, I think.
50 years from now, to be listening to you talk about things.
Well, I was born in 1932, and obviously when Pearl Harbor took place, I was almost 10 years old, just a couple months shy of 10 years old. And you're very impressionable at that age. So my point being that my friends and I were at that stage during World War II. And we were too young to be in the war, but we were certainly not too young to be impressed by everything that pertained to the war. Well, what we remembered, there were about 20 of us, and we all enlisted, and we were all inducted at different times, of course. I was the first one to be inducted, but everybody else went into something, the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, Air Force, whatever. And I went into the Navy for a specific reason, but that's beside the point right now. But during the war, as you may well remember, everybody was involved in one way or the other. We were just kids, but we sold war stamps and bonds. We collected metal, and scrap metal, we collected newspapers. We collected everything imaginable, all in the interests of the war effort. And it was on everybody's minds every day, and everybody pored over the newspapers and listened to the radio, and for a while there, the news was terrible, absolutely terrible, especially in the Pacific there. The first 5 or 6 months, the Japanese expansion was just rampant until Midway, until the Battle of Midway, and then everything started to turn around. So my point being, everybody was involved. Now, when the Korean War started, of course, we were influenced by our experience. And so the Korean War, there was a war going on. We're going to have to enlist. We're going to have to get going, So all my friends enlisted in something, all from the academy. And everybody had a different experience. But what we almost uniformly spotted was that at that time, the mindset was completely different. It was you recognize after about a year that the general population went about their business as usual. There was nothing special. They didn't do anything special because there was a war going on in Korea. They went around business as usual, and they said to the people who were fighting the war, "You guys go off and fight the war. We'll live our lives as if that wasn't even going on."
So
I've never forgotten that.
So a lot of people do think of it as the forgotten war.
That's right.
And you're here today to tell us the reasons why it shouldn't be forgotten, hopefully, and why you want to be participating in this project. It's like something for history. So you feel committed to the project and want to tell us all about Korea, right?
Well, I'm not capable of telling you all about Korea, but all I can say is what I experienced and what my.
Okay. When did you enlist?
I enlisted at Thanksgiving 1950.
You enlisted, not drafted?
Yeah, enlisted, yeah.
Okay, and what branch did you enlist into?
The Navy.
Navy. Mm-hmm. And what was your specialty? Did you get a choice of a specialty, or? We did. Now, why I did this, I've forgotten. But one of my friends and I, all of us enlisted in something at Thanksgiving. But this one fellow named Aldrich lived up on Granger Street, matter of fact. I lived on Fort Hill Avenue. I lived right next to the old academy. You live right by Evans Field? Yeah. And down the street from the Granger homestead? Pretty much. Well, your friend does. Yeah. Oh, he does. Yeah. And I used to go down that street all the time to go to work. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah. But they had an electronics school opportunity for new recruits if the intelligence level was above something. I don't know what it was. But he and I were both accepted into the electronics program. And so we went to boot camp with everybody else. And then as soon as boot camp was over, we went into electronics school. And then we went to when we came out of the electronics school, we were assigned to a vessel or a shore base or whatever you wanted. And I went to the Kennedy, this ship, this one here. And what's this? It's a destroyer. That's a destroyer, 850 it's called? Yeah. Is there a name to it also? Yeah, it's named after John Kennedy's older brother, who was killed, if you probably remember, in 1944 in Europe. And what's the name of the ship? Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. ship, and it's a battleship. It looks pretty big. No, it's a destroyer. Destroyer. Not a battleship. Pretty big. Yeah, but that's what's the difference between a battleship and a destroyer? What is? Well, all kinds of differences. Yes. Battleship is infinitely larger than this thing. Okay.
And here, I
And what's a
brought,
destroyer do? I mean, what's it
Well-
supposed to? What's its usefulness? I mean, I look at it as a battleship. Most people would. What's
it's a warship.
a warship?
Like, but its main battery is the 5-inch mounts. This is a twin 5-inch mount here, twin 5-inch mount here, and there's a twin 5-inch mount behind aft.
Okay.
Then there are 3-inch guns on the starboard side and the port side on the other side,
Okay.
and a twin 3-inch mount above the 5-inch mount and aft. It has torpedoes, as you can see right here.
Torpedoes.
Torpedoes.
It could
right-
launch torpedoes.
Yeah, launch torpedoes.
And its purpose?
Attack, of course.
Attack what? Attack
Anything?
anything?
Yeah. But as in the Korean War, more and more, one of the chief functions of the destroyers was anti-submarine warfare. And so we had depth charges aft
Okay.
and what they call hedgehogs, which was another anti-submarine weapon up forward.
And they would drop these things into
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah. Let me tell you, when they went off, you thought the world was coming to an end.
They'd go down, sink a little bit.
And then boom. And Jesus, I tell you, the whole surface of the ocean would just shimmer, you know. It was very impressive.
And they're trying to search or destroy submarines.
Yeah.
And these guns would be shooting at what?
Yeah. Well, lots of things, but they could be used for against a ship, another ship, shore bombardment. For example, in Normandy, a lot of the destroyers were in close and used for firing at the German big guns up on the cliff
In
there.
Normandy?
In Normandy, yeah.
And in Korea, what would they use?
Wonsan
these?
Harbor.
They would use these in Korea too?
Yep. Also at Incheon. But at Wonsan Harbor, this ship was used for shore bombardment.
How many men are on something like this?
Well, about 300.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you assigned to one of these ships?
This one.
This ship?
This very ship,
Okay.
yeah.
You were an electronics person
Yeah.
on the ship.
My main job was the fire control radar, which controlled the firing of the main battery of the 5-inch
Tell
gun.
us how that's done. I mean, I have no idea what fire control.
Well, it's a radar,
Okay.
and there's the antenna right there.
Okay.
And
Right, that little thing right
Yeah,
there. Okay.
and that's it. That little mount there is called the director. And if an airplane is coming in, if my radar was working correctly, and it damn well better be, we would lock on that aircraft, and that would automatically train these guns on the airplane.
They had sophistication like that?
Oh, yeah.
That year.
Oh yeah,
So these things would actually turn on your
Yeah.
numbers you would plug in or
yeah,
something?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was an anti-aircraft as well as shore bombardment?
Yeah. And other ships, if there were any enemy ships in the area, you could fire at the ships as well.
So you would just control these. There would be another person with your capability on another destroyer doing the
Oh, yeah,
same thing?
yeah.
So each person had their individual... Now, what was your title?
I was an electronics technician.
And you would read the radar and detect these ships?
My wartime and my battle station, as they called it, was the Mark 25 operator, which was located in the director up here. So you're kind of exposed, but anyway, that's where it was.
And you would be inside an office or a building?
I'd be inside that
Oh,
little
you'd be
thing.
in there.
Yeah. How many people were sitting in there during the six people?
6 people in that
Yeah,
little box?
Yeah, kind of crowded.
With
yeah.
a little like console or something?
Yeah. I was the only one that had the console.
And there had wires running to this, and
Yeah.
you would turn them. Was there any men in here loading it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so
The
there's
guns.
men inside here.
In the guns,
Okay.
not in the director.
Okay, so the men are inside here loading these cannons, or
yeah,
what do they call? What size guns are
Those
those?
are 5-inch guns.
And what's in those things? Powder or missiles?
Well, there's a powder and a shell.
like a big. I remember seeing a movie once where they had like a little silk bag of gunpowder. Is that what they put in those?
No, they aren't silk bags, but ours were canisters like, and you put the canister in for the powder, and then the projectiles would be loaded as well. Yeah,
So it was like almost like a big bullet.
yeah. Well, the 3-inch guns were big bullets, great big rifle bullets. Only they were 3 inches in diameter. The 5-inch guns,
These had big missiles in them.
The 5-inch guns had 5-inch
And how long are these
projectiles.
things? Like a foot
Well,
long or?
I'm not sure I can remember, but the projectile might be this long, but the powder case would be about that long. Yeah.
And you'd regulate how much powder for distances, or how would you?
Well, the range is controlled by the positioning of the gun mount. If it's a long range, they'd raise it's just like
it's
a cannon.
elevated this way?
Yeah,
or
just
that
like
way?
a cannon, yeah.
I
You
see.
can raise these in elevation or change the bearing very easily. But that's all controlled by the radar,
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Well, you had a very important job.
Well, I also had responsibility for the surface search radar, which looks, early warning, which looks for targets on the surface of the ocean. And that antenna is the one way up on top there.
Would that spin too? Or-
Yeah. If you want an exciting job, climb the mast and work on that antenna when the ship is moving. Yeah, that's exciting. Now, this one is the air search radar antenna, and that was the responsibility of one of my shipmates, a guy named Grover Boos, who is also lives in Syracuse here. Yeah, he's a
So
great-
you were assigned for this. How long were you on this vessel?
I was on the ship for exactly 3 years. Exactly 3 years.
So you had training. How long did your training last for this electronics?
Well, I was in boot camp, of course, for 3 months, and I was in electronics school for. Let me think. Something like 6 months, I think. I don't remember for sure. Yeah.
And they trained you how to use the equipment that you were gonna be.
No.
No.
No. They basically taught you the principles of electronic systems like radar and radio, and those were the principal subjects, I think. By the way, I'm a college professor, or at least I'm a retired college professor. And I got to tell you, the young men who taught us in that electronic school were damn good. They were really good. Now, I edited a newsletter for the my former shipmates. I mean, all shipmates of this ship. A lot of them I didn't even know, of course, but it was commissioned in 45, and it was taken out of commission in 72, I think, or 73. So all those crew members are part of an association, and I do the newsletter for that group.
Still do it now?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just got ready to send it out today, or the latest one. But why did I bring that up anyway? I can't even remember why I brought it up. But
You're talking about the teachers teaching you the best.
oh yeah, those guys were great. There was an article. A guy wrote an article. He was aboard this ship about 16 years. Well, about 15 years after I left the ship, and he went to some kind of an electronic school, and he was talking in this article about the instructors, and I said, boy, that's not like it was when I was there. I mean, the guys that taught us, I thought were terrific.
But the other thing you were going to bring up was you really had almost, I don't know if you did, maybe you had on-the-job training because they taught you just the basics.
Yeah.
Then when you get into this little
Yeah.
room, is that where you learned it?
You had to learn pretty fast.
On-the-job training?
You had to learn pretty fast, yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty risky thing.
Yeah.
I mean, were there people there that had experience to
Well-
help you?
No, not really. Not really. But the point is, the beauty of the Navy is that everybody on that ship depends on everybody else. Everybody depends on everybody else. If you screw up, then the whole ship is going to suffer for it. I don't care who you're talking about, the lowest bosun mate.
Big consequences.
Huh?
Big consequences.
Big consequences, yeah. So you just didn't dare screw up. It's not a big...
So it was like a big team had to work
Absolutely.
like clockwork.
Absolutely.
And,
And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
Now this little director thing was manned 24 hours a day?
No, it wasn't. But if the ship went into what they call battle stations, then everybody went to their battle stations, and everybody had something to do during some specific assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Mine just happened to be in that director.
So the ship is pretty susceptible to submarines and
Oh, yeah.
and torpedoes. Was this surface radar working all the time?
Well, that's a surface radar. Now, there's also sonar.
Okay.
And the sonar
is underneath
underwater.
the ship?
Underwater.
Okay.
And that's looking for submarines. Yeah.
And is that operating all the time? Is somebody manning that?
Yeah, pretty much. If the ship is underway, if it's moving, then the sonar is, unless the ship is going really fast, because then there's so much water noise that you can't tell anything.
Yeah.
But if they're looking for submarines, they go to a slower speed, and you can bet the sonar's working.
Okay, so your training was basically like 6 to 8 months of training in electronics, and you did that for 3 years on this particular ship?
Yeah.
So that was your home for a long time.
That's right.
What was it like to be on a ship?
Oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I actually thought a little bit about shipping over, surprisingly. That is, re-enlisting when my enlistment was up. But because by that time the Korean War was all over, and I thought, Jesus, but my father really wanted me to go to college, and so I figured I had the GI Bill.
Oh, yeah, that would be helpful. Yes.
Yeah, my father had multiple sclerosis, and I knew when I first went to college that he was going to have to scrape like the dickens to send me there, and the tuition was a drop in the bucket to compare what it is today. But that drop in the bucket was a big drop for him. I knew that, and my brother knew it. My brother was a World War II type, and he had the GI Bill. When we went in, I don't think we knew that the Korean War veterans were going to get the GI Bill, or get a GI Bill, but they did, thank goodness. But I had the GI Bill, and so I decided I better go back to college, and I'm glad I did, of course, because everything worked out very well.
Where'd you go to college?
Pardon?
Where did you go to college?
Syracuse.
You went to SU?
I went right back to Syracuse, yeah.
Oh.
But I didn't go back to pre-law, which was a stupid thing to do for me to do anyway. I'd have been a terrible lawyer. I went into the College of Engineering, and
how were the instructors there as opposed to the ones that taught you how to use the radar?
well, my
Or the electronics?
my instructors at Syracuse were always all for the most part, were just terrific. We were talking about that just recently. Of course, we have to take lots of things. We took a lot of mathematics, and the mathematics teachers were just absolutely phenomenal. The former math department chairman was a guy named Don Kibbe, and I always said he could teach calculus to a rock. I mean, he was really good.
Good teacher.
Oh God, he was great.
He made it a learnable experience for you.
Yeah. And that can be a very unlearnable experience.
Yes.
But
Well, not many numbers in those calculus.
Yeah,
a lot of letters and
a lot of letters and
symbols.
stuff. That's right.
And what you found out to be helpful in this electronics field you went into, the calculus?
Well, yeah, you can't do the field. You can't work in the field at any advanced level and not know the calculus. That's for sure.
So it was very helpful.
Yeah. But generally speaking, the instruction at Syracuse University in my time was just terrific, absolutely terrific. So I've been very lucky.
So you went into SU at what year?
1950.
1950.
September 1950.
And you graduated or
58.
degree? Okay. So it took you a little bit of
It took
time.
me a long time.
Okay. But you enjoyed it.
Very much.
And you got a master's degree or something
Got a master's and then a PhD. Yeah.
in electronics engineering?
Everything was in what they call electrical engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, that included electronics and everything.
So you were in school for 8 years.
Oh, a lot longer than that, because I wasn't here during those 8 years. I started in 1950, left basically at Thanksgiving time 1950, came back in 55 and graduated in 58. Then I got my master's degree in 60. I went to work at Eastman Kodak for a while, came back and got the PhD in 65. So if you want to start at the beginning and the ending, 15 years.
Oh, you're a professional student.
A lot of people thought that. Probably my mother thought that.
But the GI Bill will help you a lot.
Oh boy, did it ever. Made it possible.
So you sound like a person that had a big impact on these students that you had in school.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Are there any memorable moments as a professor, anybody coming back and saying
Yeah,
you're a terrible teacher or you're a great teacher?
Well, I've had some very, very nice things said to me, I'll say that, and let it go at that.
As a
Yeah.
teacher, I always felt, let's see, I taught for 34 years, and over the 34 years, I had maybe 2 students call me up and said, what a good job. But those
Yeah.
2 students made me feel good.
Damn right,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you did your job.
yeah.
I see you have another photograph here.
Well, I just brought this. This is from the Doolittle raid, as I told you. And this was during World War II, Miss, the 1942. But the reason I brought it is that this is an aircraft carrier, of course. That's the destroyer.
Oh my God. It looks so small.
I know, it is small.
So the destroyer's here to protect this big ship?
Well, from submarines, yeah. But also, we also, now this guy's on plane guard duty right now. Now, what they're doing, at least one of the things they're doing is, if one of these things dumps in the drink as they try to take off, they'll go up and attempt to rescue the crew.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they do a lot of that. Not everybody survives, of course, but
You mean as they're taking off it would crash, or landing, or just
both.
coming in and not
both. You
missing?
see, these things aren't supposed to. They're too big to fly off an aircraft carrier. At least in the aircraft carriers of those days. Now, I don't know. They did something special with these things. They must have just revved them up like
They
crazy.
put special engines in them, you think?
I
or
don't know. I don't think so. But they had to rev those things up.
Just to get off the
Yeah,
plane,
to get off
just get off the ship. So,
Yeah.
so you said something about one of these ships was involved with a bombing of some kind?
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
That ship.
That particular.
That very ship.
What is the name of that one?
The Hornet.
The Hornet.
And those are the B-25s, which are not Navy planes at all. But they bombed Tokyo in April of '42. That's let me see, January, February, March, 4 months after Pearl Harbor.
So these they're not planes. They're what are they
They're
called?
bombers.
Bombers.
They're Army bombers.
And they were loaded down with bombs to
Yeah.
get off an aircraft carrier. They really had to,
Damn
like you
right.
said, rev it up.
Rev it up. And the carrier was probably going as fast as it could go to get the wind speed up.
Because you always travel into the wind when
Yeah,
you're taking
yeah,
off, right?
Taking off into the wind, yeah.
And they're bouncing around too.
Yeah, bouncing around. Well, this sea isn't too bad right now.
So these bombers I never knew bombers took off from aircraft carriers.
They don't, but they did that day.
Because I remember seeing the small fighter planes would
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So there was something unusual. So how
Very.
close were they to Tokyo in this picture, you think?
Well, not.
I don't see Japan in the background.
No, but they're not close enough for these planes to fly and return to the ship. Those guys had to try to get rid of their load and then land someplace in China.
Oh.
And there's some horror stories about what happened to some of those guys. But
They knew that it was inevitable that
Yeah.
they couldn't make it back?
yep, they knew that.
I didn't know that.
But they thought they could land in nationalist-held China and get back that way. But a lot of them landed in Japanese-held China or got shot down over Japan, you know.
Oh my God, what a destiny.
Yeah.
Knowing that you
Yeah.
can't, what is it, the distance with the fuel going
Yeah,
and coming?
yeah,
And
exactly.
they couldn't get the ships close enough because they would be under attack from
Yeah.
Japanese.
If they got close enough, this ship would have been attacked and sunk before they could get these
Oh my
things off the
God.
ground, yeah, or off the carrier.
What proud, heroic people.
Yeah, I'll say.
And you said one of your friends was one of the ones where the ship was sunk?
No. My friend was on, who's a Canandaigua guy. He was on the old Lexington, USS Lexington, at the Battle of Coral Sea, which took place April, May, about a month after this raid took place. Now the Coral Sea is down south of New Guinea. Let's see, what is it? South and east of New Guinea. And what the Japs were after was they were going to try to take Port Moresby on the southern New Guinea coast so that they could control the sea lanes to Australia. Australia was a big supply base for the U.S. In the early part of the war, well, all through the war, actually, not just the early part. But the Coral Sea was a stalemate. We lost a carrier, the Lexington, and he was up in the air. He was flying around when his ship went down.
So what did he do?
He had to land someplace else. There was another carrier there, the Yorktown, and I honestly can't remember now whether he landed in China or on the Yorktown. I think he probably was on the Yorktown. The Yorktown was wounded, and that Yorktown went back to Pearl Harbor, got repaired, and fought in the Battle of Midway 1 month later.
Wow.
That's a great story.
I watched a movie about that, I think.
Oh, sure. There's a
Who
whole...
were those actors in that movie? It was, I'm trying to remember the names. I can see the faces, but I can't remember the names of the actors in that.
You're thinking about Midway?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Glenn Ford was in that. He was he played Admiral Spruance. Nimitz was played by a very famous guy.
I want to say Dean Martin.
Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda.
Henry
I said
Fonda.
Dean Martin was Henry Fonda, yes.
Henry Fonda played Nimitz, and I could think of all the rest of them, but it'd take me more time than you have to.
It was an interesting movie.
Very interesting movie, yeah.
And it was you think it was pretty accurate in the way they did it, or is it more show?
I'm not qualified to say, but I do know, I firmly believe that Midway turned the war around, because the Japanese expansion lasted about 5 or 6 months. After Midway, it was turned around.
Let's switch gears a little bit. When you were stationed in Korea, where were you stationed?
Well, the ship was off of, it was all over. Ships don't stay in one place. But the most significant place where they were was where the ship was in Wonsan Harbor.
And where's that?
It's on the south east side of South Korea. And if you recall, the North Koreans had pushed the Americans back, and so they really had kind of a foothold is all. And things were kind of in dire straits there for a while. And so there was a battle going on at Wonsan Harbor. And the Kennedy and other ships like it were bombarding shore installations of the North Koreans. But then after that, MacArthur led the Americans at that Incheon landing up.
Now Incheon's on the
other side.
East side? West side?
Is on the west side.
And Wansoa was
on the southeast, yeah.
Okay.
But the Incheon landing basically cut the peninsula in two. Now the effect that had was the Chinese and North Koreans that were down in the south, they were cut off. Made a hell of a difference. So that was quite a coup on the Americans' part.
And you were bombarding the shoreline?
The Kennedy was bombarding the shoreline at Wonsan Harbor, yeah.
I heard that Incheon thing by MacArthur was a brilliant move.
It was.
By him.
It was.
And then there was another general, somebody came in later on in the war, Walker. Was there a General Walker that came in? He was more of an army person.
Could be, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember.
What were your did you ever land? Did you ever get into
No.
You never landed. You stayed on the ship the entire time?
Yeah.
What were the living conditions like on the ship?
Close. Close. That's why I can't imagine having women aboard a ship, a military ship. I just can't fathom that, because you're right next to, you go to the head, or the men's room, head, it's called the head. I mean, there's 6 or 8 people in there all at the same time. The living conditions are so tight. I mean,
sleeping beds?
Yeah, our racks were maybe 2 or 2.5 feet apart.
Series of bunk beds?
Yeah.
You
we were
wake
packed,
up and hit your head.
Yeah, you're packed in there like sardines. And how they could have women aboard a Navy ship is absolutely beyond my understanding.
What was your opinion of Korea, the Koreans, the South Korean Army? Maybe you dealt with them, North Korean.
No.
Were there any North Korean battleships or destroyers? Did you ever come across those?
No. The American fleet pretty powerful, and any ship that came close to the American fleet was going to be hammered really badly.
So you never had any conflicts with other ships?
No.
Submarines only, or?
Submarines we chased, yeah, but no
ships
no.
above the water. Okay. Did you ever encounter any foreign troops being captured and put on your ship, or no? Okay. Let's see. When were you discharged?
February 4th, 1955. Remember it well.
Yes, I hear. You know the dates. And when you were discharged, was there like any kind of homecoming party for you? Was it festive? Was there any resentment that you were there? Did people just didn't know, or?
But my ship was in Cuba at the time, and my enlistment was fast coming up, and I was ready to leave the ship because I had to get back. If I was going to go back to college, I had to get there because hell,
February you were going to be discharged.
Semester had already started.
Yes.
So I was really nervous about it, and the executive officer, who's the second in command of the ship, he came down to the deck, main deck, and tried to talk me again into reenlisting. And for once in my life, I stuck to my guns. Mm-hmm. But he made it kind of uncomfortable for me,
Well, he also told you they kept you over there until February after the semester had started.
Well, my shipmate, the guy that I told you about, who lives in Syracuse, his principal responsibility was the air search radar. Good guy. Now he left the ship before we went to Cuba.
So like in January or something?
Yeah, and
he was discharged in January?
Well, I don't remember when he was discharged, but he left the ship. He was transferred to the separation center before we left for Cuba, not me. I thought I should have been transferred at the same time, but it didn't happen.
You were going to be discharged. You knew it was coming up.
Yeah, but it didn't happen.
So they made you stay on the ship.
So I had to go to Cuba with him, and but then it got to be pretty late. Maybe the 1st of February. I'm guessing now, but it was almost no time, and I was beside myself because if I wait any longer, I'm going to be too late,
For the semester.
I don't know why they did that. It might have been that they were trying to, but the executive officer really made it a little bit unpleasant for me because
he wanted you.
Yeah, he wanted me to stay, and I think the reasons may have been selfish on his part. I don't know. I have no idea. I've never understood that, really. But so I jumped on a barge and went over to the mainland, and I caught a plane to Jacksonville, where there was a separation center, and I basically had to take responsibility for myself.
Travel.
And I got in this old DC-3 with the wings going up and down. I was scared to death. That was the first airplane flight I ever had. I thought, we aren't going to get anywhere with this thing, But I got to Jacksonville, and they got me out pretty fast. And I flew up to New York City, and then I must have taken the train to Rochester, and my parents picked me up.
So you went to old Idlewild Airport?
I did.
Idlewild is now Kennedy.
Yeah, Kennedy, yeah.
And you took a train from Kennedy?
No, I took a train from someplace. I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
But I must have taken the train
from New York?
Probably to Rochester, and then my parents probably drove me up to Syracuse. Mm-hmm. But I was just in the nick of time because classes had already started.
They let you enroll?
And my shipmate, Grover Booth there, the guy that I told you about, he was already there. He came to Syracuse. We were going to come back to Syracuse together. He had never been to Syracuse, but he was going to come to college there. And he was there waiting for me.
Uh-huh. And he was enrolled already?
Yeah.
So he was there, and they let you enroll late?
Yeah,
late entry into the college.
Yeah.
So getting back to the other question, was there any festivities? I mean, you were in a rush to get home. Was anybody happy that you were home?
I think so, yeah.
Or your parents? Or?
There wasn't any time for a celebration, that's for sure.
Okay, so you just went right to classes.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite a switch to go from military right to civilian.
Yeah, it is.
Was there any memories that you had of being on the ship? Do you think of it all the
thousands
time?
Thousands of them.
You think?
Thousands of them, yeah. I think about it all the time.
And you're the newsletter person, so
Yeah.
you must see and
I have
hear
to
it.
think about it.
You must see and hear a lot about it.
I do.
And so it had a big impact on you, this
Yeah.
military thing.
It did.
Sort of groomed you into the electronics, do you think?
Yeah.
Or-
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, people in the wartime sometimes have animosity against the enemy. Some people don't. What are your feelings on the North Koreans and the Chinese?
Well, I have animosity toward the leadership in North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, I think those people are nitwits.
Mhm.
I don't know what they think they're doing, but I would think reunification and a democratic form of government. I think the South Koreans are a good model. I don't know why these people up there persist, you know, and why the population allows them to persist. Beyond me.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the people; it's the leadership and
Yeah.
the politicians that are governing
Yeah.
everything.
Seem
And
to
I'm
be.
sure the people that are in North Korea want to be just like the people in South Korea. They must have some information.
I would think so. Yeah.
But the reunification is something that you would look forward to, joining the
On their
North and the
behalf. I mean, it doesn't affect me too much, but I would think that they would be interested in reunification. They probably have relatives. You're Korean, Miss?
Yes.
Do you have relatives in North Korea?
I don't have. My brother-in-law's father was from North Korea
Yeah.
before the war.
Yeah,
And they have relatives.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
being separated from your family, and I know. Do you ever hear about the reunification meetings that they have?
Yeah,
The South Koreans go to North Korea for a few days and meet their relatives, but the North Koreans won't allow the North Koreans to go to South Korea. They never go back. So, do you know about the economy in North Korea at all?
not in any authentic way. My impression is that it's not good.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the South Koreans have everything.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping someday that
Look at
reunification
the
does.
Hyundais and the Kias that you see on the streets. My Lord, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And my son is a banker in Chicago, and he's in corporate finance, you know, and one of his customers is Hyundai. One of his clients, I should say, one of his clients is the Hyundai Motor Company, along with Ford and General Motors. Yeah,
It's a thriving economy.
yeah.
I think it's the 11th largest economy in the world.
I wouldn't be
I think
surprised.
China's number 2. America's
Very
number 1.
very industrious people.
Yes. What would you like to say into the camera to me about young people in another war? What would you do if you were young and there was another war started right now? What would you tell the youngsters that could be going to war or eligible? You were in the military and it was a different era then. But
Different era.
what would you say to them now?
Boy, I tell you, I don't know. Because now they talk about limited wars, you know. Well, they talked about limited war in Korea. Well, the casualty rate in Korea was enormous. And Korea was not a limited
It
war.
lasted a long time, right?
Yeah, lasted a long, well, lasted quite a while, yeah. But, and look at Afghanistan, for God's sake, you know. I don't know. I'm influenced by my own background, and if we're at war, everybody should be at war. Everybody if the United States is in a war, everybody should play a role in some way or another.
Allies are coming in, different countries helping out.
Well, maybe, but if the United States is at war, it's not something for just a few people to do. Everybody ought to be involved, just like during World War II. Everybody ought to be involved somehow. They ought to be collecting scrap metal or some damn thing.
What would you say to young people? What would you say to a youngster that has a draft card?
Yeah.
And I just did one for my son. I had to fill it out. Otherwise, his financial aid would be affected. You have to do the draft card when you're 18. And they repeatedly haunt you until you send that in. And I was afraid, you know, as a dad. What would you say to kids that have the draft card now and there's a war or a limited thing going on right now, would you tell him to enlist?
I'll tell
or
you.
would you
I'll tell
say
you
something else?
I'll tell you what I told the young fellow in my church out here. And my church is right down the street here, in Janesville Community Church there. His mother is the daughter of two of my Canandaigua friends. They happen to live in Syracuse for quite a while, but they're back in Canandaigua now. She's a lovely girl, and she has two sons. And the youngest son was going to enlist in the military. So they asked me, what do you think? I said, if he's going to enlist in the Navy. The Navy will help. The Navy, if he gives them a chance, they'll help him carve out his future. And he'd be serving to the country at the same time. It sure has helped not just me, but a lot of people that I was in the service with were favorably influenced in their future directions. And I was sure as hell one of them.
So the Navy is what you would suggest, not the Army? Or...
I'm prejudiced. You realize that?
Okay, yeah.
Prejudice as hell.
Okay.
But I think the Navy's a great outfit.
What the Air Force?
Well, I don't know enough about the Air Force to say these days. A lot of my friends back at that time did join the Air Force. I don't think they got the same net return. I honestly don't think they got the same net return by any means that I did.
The Air Force, you get like a jet or your plane. There's just a certain amount of people that can work on these. But a ship, you have a big, vast, like little moving city.
And as I told the people before, everybody depends on everybody else. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a job to do, and everybody depends on everybody to do that job. And if they don't do it, everybody's on their case for it.
So it's a valuable lesson.
Damn right it is.
In working together.
Damn right it is.
So the Navy is what you would tell them.
That's, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been back to Korea?
I'm prejudiced, of course.
Have you ever been back to Korea?
No.
What would you...
I had a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your... I mean, I asked before, but again, what is your opinion about the division between the North and South? You said that there should be unification. What's your feelings about the Korean War now, after you've been out and everything? What's your opinion about what happened? Or
Our country and the Allies, the Great Britain and all those who participated, Australia, mm-hmm. and I'm sure I'm forgetting some important players, but it was the right thing to do. Absolutely the right thing to do. No question about it in my mind. And as I said before, I think the best thing for the Korean Peninsula is that they reunite. And the only thing holding that back is the leadership in North Korea, as far as I'm concerned. My group, my own, when I say my group, those are all my high school pals, right? All the academy guys that graduated with me or before, 1 year before me. I think they all had the same feeling. That is, if the thing that was missing is the general acceptance among the population as a whole that we were in a war. And as I said earlier, we grew up during World War II when everybody was involved. In one way or the other, everybody was involved. That wasn't true in Korea, and it hasn't been true since. It got progressively worse. Vietnam was worse than Korea by a long shot, because those guys came back and a lot of people kind of gave him the business, He said, you're a bad guy because it almost made me sick to my stomach the way people acted. And it hasn't gotten any better.
But the Korean War was, after World War II, was prosperity and stuff, and we got into another skirmish. And you're saying that there was a lot of people going about their business, but there was these soldiers over there. And a lot of people refer to the Korean War as the forgotten war. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, my age group doesn't forget it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And World War II hasn't been forgotten, really, but by today's generation, it's been forgotten. You and I haven't forgotten it. But today's generation, you ask kids about Guadalcanal, for example. half of them would have the faintest idea what Guadalcanal was and the importance that that had in the American war effort, you know? Or Anzio. What about Anzio? They wouldn't have heard of Anzio.
And today, like you're saying, is the Korean War is totally out of their mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that,
It's a long time ago.
yeah.
Yeah. At least to today's young people, it is.
What could you tell the people? People are going to be watching this long after your ashes are gone. What would you tell people today about the Korean War and today for the future? Like some kids watching this video 20, 30 years from now, what would you say to them about the Korean War?
Well, as I said, I think it was a necessary step. By that I mean the United States involvement with the British and the allies that we had, the Australians certainly. There had been aggression, same as I felt the same way during the first Gulf War, because Kuwait had been invaded. And we went to the defense of Kuwait, and George Bush Sr. stopped the Americans before they
Going into Iraq.
before they tore. Well, they went into Iraq, all right, but they didn't tear
Baghdad.
they didn't tear the place apart. They didn't bombard Baghdad. They sure as hell could have, but they didn't. I respect that decision because we accomplished our objective. Now in Korea, it was a very tough thing there, especially the stalemate there in the later years there. But at least it ended. And why they don't reunite is because of those people. You know, I think we did the right thing. As I've said before, I think it was the right thing to do. And I just wish it would have a happier ending.
You know, I was there at the DMZ, and you can see that the North Koreans are watching the South Koreans,
Yeah.
and the South Koreans are watching North Koreans. There's still this little Cold War going on, and
And that's 58 years ago.
yeah, it's a long time, and it still hasn't been solved. Someday, maybe,
Yeah.
it will be. I know that you brought in a lot of materials. You have the photograph of the
Well, I
of
just brought that to show
the
the
size.
relative size.
Okay. Do you have anything else that you would like to contribute or loan to this?
Well, as I told Alan, I have my DD-14, for example, and I have
What's a DD?
that's your official separation papers.
That's a discharge paper.
It tells you where you were and what you did,
Oh,
and
I
all that
see.
kind of stuff. Your everything about your service on one sheet of paper, and then your honorable discharge. I have that, of course, and but they're in my bank box, and I just didn't have time to go over there and get them.
Well, there's no rush.
Yeah.
We'd like to get some pictures of these sometime whenever
Yeah.
you have a chance, so that we can have them for the archives. Hopefully, this project will go places. We're gonna, from what I heard, it's gonna be Central New York mostly, and then maybe branch out. Hopefully, it will. And we want to thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah.
Your involvement with this is very important, and your knowledge of we have a lot of military people, and you're one of the Navy people.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that you had a very big involvement in this war.
Well,
And the South Korean people, from what I know and being there, South Korean people embrace all the Americans for helping them out.
we tried to do our job. That's what we tried to do, and mine went pretty well. I'll have to say, everything was pretty good.
Well, Mr. Strait, thank you for coming.
Okay, my
Thank
pleasure.
you very
Yeah,
much. It was a
thank
nice,
you.
nice
Thank you.
conversation.